Imagine that the music industry is experiencing a plethora of new sounds in the late 1970s. Blondie, a band led by Debbie Harry and Chris Stein, is at the epicenter of the new wave and punk rock movements that are sweeping across New York. Across the Atlantic, Blondie was defying convention with its daring music and edgy appearance. However, the world had already fallen in love with another band. With their memorable choruses, dazzling performances, and catchy melodies, the Swedish musical group ABBA was sweeping the globe. They were unavoidable and present everywhere. ABBA's relentless rise caught the attention of Debbie Harry and the rest of Blondie. Harry thought ABBA's music was unique and commended what they had accomplished in pop music, despite the fact that Blondie and ABBA came from quite different musical backgrounds. Unlike other pop bands, ABBA was unique. Their music was unavoidable because they were perfectionists in the studio and masters of melody. Debbie once claimed that Blondie wanted to stand out in New York because of their love of songs like Mamma Mia and Dancing Queen. However, they also realized that they had to respect ABBA as a band. Blondie's songs about fashion, nightlife, and genuine emotions influenced the punk rock and new wave movements. In contrast, ABBA produced well-written pop songs about hope, heartache, and love. These two bands appear to be extremely distinct at first. However, Debbie Harry was unable to ignore the sound of ABBA. Their songs were more than just radio hits since they were catchy, sophisticated, and expertly composed with heart and harmony. Debbie Harry was the one who declared ABBA to be a significant pop group. Despite coming from the gritty punk environment, Blondie was able to recognize the greatness of ABBA's songs. ABBA was a master of memorable hooks and catchy tunes, and Debbie knew a thing or two about them. She saw ABBA as the pinnacle of pop, a soaring illustration of how to create music that captured the public's interest. Blondie looked up to the Swedish superstars and wanted the same kind of success, even if it came from a different source. Even if they realized they couldn't directly compete with ABBA. Blondie began fusing pop and disco elements with their new wave sound in songs like Heart of Glass and Call Me. Blondie's guitarist Chris Stein once remarked that they wanted to make their sound clearer because of ABBA. Blondie wasn't scared to experiment, even though this wasn't typical of punk rock. They began to put more of an emphasis on production, incorporating harmonies and mellow tones that referenced ABBA's sophisticated sound. ABBA was both a challenge and a symbol of success for Debbie. Her aspirations were for Blondie to get international recognition and be recognized as a band with a distinct sound. Debbie Harry remarked, "We wanted to surprise people like ABBA did." And as Blondie's success increased, that desire propelled them to take chances with their music. Like ABBA, they rose to international fame with hits like Rapture and The Tide is High, reaching audiences well beyond the New York punk scene. Debbie Harry, however, was determined to demonstrate Blondie's uniqueness and the edge of their music. She wanted to demonstrate that Blondie could leave a lasting impression in a way that was exclusively theirs, even though she liked ABBA. She later said that ABBA was a band we couldn't ignore and that their success motivated Blondie to put in more effort and aim higher. Both Blondie and ABBA were at the pinnacle of their success when the 1970s transitioned into the 1980s. Millions of people liked ABBA for their wonderful harmonies and positive songs, despite the fact that their routes and sounds couldn't have been more different. Waterloo and Dancing Queen, for example, were more than just tunes. They were renowned soundtracks of an era that were adored by people everywhere for their capacity to uplift and unite people. Conversely, Blondie, a band that thrived on defiance and taking chances, emerged from the gritty slums of New York. By fusing disco, new wave, and punk in ways that no other band had, Blondie revolutionized alternative music with hits like Heart of Glass and Debbie Harry's fierce charisma. Blondie's music had an edgy rawness that appealed to fans seeking something new and unpredictable, whereas ABBA's sound was refined and exact. The sound clash wasn't the only thing that happened. It was an identity conflict. With a brilliance that seemed almost larger than life and impeccable showmanship, the members of ABBA gave a performance. Blondie, on the other hand, explored themes of heartbreak in the nightlife and challenges in the metropolis, embracing imperfections and pushing the envelope. Because ABBA had established the benchmark for mainstream music, Debbie Harry held them in high regard. But since Blondie had the guts to stand out and explore the wild, dark sides of fame, she also felt that they had made an impact. Eventually, both Blondie and ABBA became part of history. Generations have enjoyed the joyful, straightforward lyrics of ABBA's songs, which are still played at parties, weddings, and celebrations. They represented pop music's positive side and provided a momentary reprieve from the troubles of everyday life. In contrast, Blondie's legacy seemed to be a call to individualism. They demonstrated that unorthodox music could become mainstream without losing its character, and that punk and new wave didn't have to stay underground. Debbie Harry was aware that everyone would always enjoy ABBA's songs. However, she took pride in the fact that Blondie had taught band how to remain unique in a field that favored formulas over creativity. Both Blondie and ABBA are praised today for their influence on the music business as much as their songs. Many pop stars were motivated to aim for perfection by ABBA's polished sound. With their production and melody, Madonna, the Spice Girls, and others laid the groundwork for their worldwide pop triumph. They demonstrated that a modest European nation's music might become a global sensation. In the meantime, musicians that value the ethos of independent bands like No Doubt Garbage continue to honor Blondie's legacy. Blondie has even been highlighted by Lady Gaga as evidence that both creative authenticity and economic success can coexist. Today's genre-defying musicians continue to draw inspiration from Blondie's brave approach to genre blending and Debbie Harry's audacity. Remembering ABBA was like staring at a far-off star that symbolized a different type of celebrity, a different kind of achievement. She appreciated how easily ABBA's music resonated with audiences and how their harmonies could elevate even the most straightforward lyrics. There was rivalry for her respect, though. A part of her considered ABBA to be the norm. She aspired to surpass a difficulty. Blondie saw their success as encouragement that it was feasible to make it on the global scale, even though they never attempted to copy ABBA. Years later, Debbie realized that although Blondie's music might not have the same flawless pop appeal, it had a timeless quality that ABBA's flawless execution could never fully convey. The differences that had separated Blondie and ABBA appear almost meaningless now that they are both enjoying their status as legends. These two bands used to be on different sides of the music industry. ABBA, raw, and Blondie rebellious are all flawlessly polished and pop-perfect. While Blondie's songs encapsulated the grit and excitement of New York's underground culture, ABBA's beautiful harmonies made parties erupt all over the world. Decades later, however, such distinctions are hazy and a common legacy becomes apparent. Although each band achieved fame in their own unique way, they both had an indisputable influence that altered the musical landscape. Throughout her voyage, Blondie underwent frequent changes. They enjoyed defying convention and fusing new wave and punk disco in ways that no one could have predicted. Blondie took risks, which occasionally had odd or even contentious results. In addition to shocking Blondie's punk fans with a disco beat and Heart of Glass, it also broke down barriers and made the band more accessible without sacrificing their edge. ABBA, on the other hand, adhered to a distinct vision and mastered the art of capturing melodies and uplifting lyrics, creating songs that appealed to all listeners. Success for Blondie means defying expectations. It means mastering it for ABBA. But in their own special ways, both strategies expanded the possibilities of pop music and gave it a new depth. Each band performed something fresh and unique. Initially dismissed as mere pop, ABBA's songs resonated deeply with many who didn't think much of them. It was more than just a dancing hit, Dancing Queen. It was a freedom anthem, a song that encouraged people to appreciate life and let loose. In contrast, Blondie's music reflected the restless energy of the metropolis with a raw urban intensity. Calm and Rapture were not merely narrative songs. Blondie music was a form of defiance, and they made worlds for it. ABBA's message of inclusivity was a way of saying, we don't have to fit in. a reminder that happiness is a part of everyone's existence. However, both bands' distinct genres brought people together, demonstrating that great music defies easy classification. In many respects, Blondie and ABBA had two distinct visions for the future of music. Blondie cleared the path for musicians who wished to experiment with different genres and generate fresh concepts. Future celebrities like Madonna, whose career was based on perpetual reinvention, and Lady Gaga, who challenged pop conventions by taking risks without fear, were inspired by their legacy. Pop music may be as rebellious and thrilling as punk music, as Blondie demonstrated. Conversely, artists who valued melody and structure were influenced by ABBA. Madonna's subsequent work with the Spice Girls and even Adele demonstrated ABBA's passion for songwriting. Many artists learned from ABBA songs that, when done correctly, simplicity can be just as powerful as creativity. ABBA demonstrated to Debbie that meticulous craftsmanship had its own magic, while Blondie chose danger and anarchy. Pop music's potential was demonstrated by Harry ABBA. She frequently expressed her admiration for the Swedish band, claiming that Blondie would not have been the same without the popularity of bands like ABBA, despite the fact that their music was so different from Blondie's. Knowing that another band, ABBA, might be well-liked and loyal to their ideals strengthened Blondie's rebellious edge. ABBA demonstrated that excellent music, whether polished or punk, could leave a lasting impression by sharing a commitment to authenticity despite having a distinct sound. Debbie Harry still speaks highly of ABBA today, viewing them as unique pioneers. Both ABBA and Blondie are commended for their contributions to music. ABBA is recognized as the joyful sound of unrestrained joy, whereas Blondie is renowned as the band who walked on the edge. Although Blondie and ABBA once sounded completely different, they are now similar to one another. Their histories demonstrate that although music can originate from several places, it always ends up in the same location: our hearts.